Hi, this is Sara Levin, the Artful Inker, an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and today I'm participating in the Creating Kindness blog hop, where we are featuring cards using watercolor pencils. My card for the hop is a To a Wild Rose card, and I've used the Stampin' Up! Watercolor pencil assortments. So let me set this aside and let's get to the creating. For my card, I'm going to be using the To a Wild Rose stamp set, using this outline for the rose and the outline here for the leaf. And then I'm going to be using the Stampin' Up! Watercolor Pencils assortment and assortment 2. So I have a piece of Whisper White that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I've cut it a little larger so that after I do my stamping and coloring, I will cut that extra 1/4 inch off of each side so that it's the normal size of a layer. But that gives me a little more room to play. I'm going to be stamping in basic gray and trying to be very careful with my wet element. Just trying to decide where I want this. And then let's see, I've got a mask here that I previously cut, and we're just going to overlay the mask. And then I've got a scrap here because I want, or think I want, a third flower. We're sort of playing as I go here. Okay, so let's set that aside. And now I want some leaves to go with my roses. And you'll notice I'm just sticking this on, placing it on the top of my ink pad. I'm not pouncing. I'm not smashing. Let me lift this up. This has a pointed leaf petal on the flower, which makes it really easy to shift the mask and just line up with that pointed. Okay, so we're going to start with that. Let me move things out of the way and we'll start our coloring. For the roses, I'm going to use the Real Red pencil from the watercolor assortment and the Cherry Cobbler pencil from the assortment 2, and start with my shading. In fact, I think I want to grab one more, and that's the Daffodil Delight. Roses often have a little yellow down in the center, and if I put that in first, I'll remember to put that in. And I'm just scribbling along. Okay, and I'm going to start with the dark. And I do like to kind of scribble in the same, all going the same kind of direction. Okay. And then let's do some of the leaves. For the leaves, I've got Garden Green and Granny Apple Green from the assortment 2, and let me find my old olive pencil over here from the assortment, and we're going to use several colors, starting with some garden green. Down in here is my deepest shade. I'm going to blend in some of the old olive over it. Oop, that is gray. Well, we'll just change that up. Sorry, it was sitting right next to my old olive pencil. No harm, no foul. And then we're going to add a little bit of the Granny Apple Green out here at the tip, and then come back in with a little bit of this garden green over everything. Now to blend, normally you'd use a watercolor brush, but because I'm used watercolor ink, I'm going to use my blender pen and not go over my stamped lines. Okay, and then clean my brush, and I want to blend in this red. And then I'm going to come in here on this yellow and give it a little bit, because frankly it makes it a little more vibrant. So now I'm just going to finish coloring. You've seen the process, and we'll let the video go as I color the rest of this. So now we're going to add some shading around our flowers, and I have basic gray from the watercolor assortment, and Balmy Blue from the watercolor assortment 2. So I'm going to start and just lightly color in here around the bottom of my flowers. We can always add more, you just can't take it away. So let's grab my blender pen and blend this around. It smooths out the color. Okay, so I'm going to bring this light gray all the way out to the corner here. I'm just barely coloring back and forth with it, and then activate it with my blender pen, and that kind of grounds this corner. I may come back in there again and add a little more, cleaning off the tip. And then I think I want a little bit of blue up here at the top. Kind of the opposite of a shadow, a highlight maybe. And again, I'm going to come and just give this a light touch in here with my blender pen to get rid of the lines. And no need to scrub back and forth in the same area over and over again. You just want to come through quickly. So, going to let these meet out here along the edge. And in fact, I think I'm going to color the entire rest of this background at the top with the Balmy Blue. So again, I'm using the side, trying to get more of the side than the tip, and just a light movement. I find it's easier if I keep it going the same direction, and that way the tone and texture are the same. Okay, and back to my blender pen here. And it looks pink, and we'll make sure that we're not adding pink to go along here. And then I'm going to come across that blue one more time. It's a little too liney for me, so going to need to let that dry a moment, so that, because if I work on the wet, it will intensify the color. And I'm just going to swirl in a little bit of pencil and then come back with the blender pen. But first we're going to let this become perfectly dry so that I don't end up with something that's intensely blue at the top. Okay, so our coloring and then turning it into watercolor is finished, and now it's time to give it the card a sentiment. I'm going to use a piece of basic black and the hello from To a Wild Rose, and that's going to be embossed in white Stampin' Emboss powder. So I'm inking with my Versamark. And then let's pull in a piece of scrap paper. I'm going to set this aside and sprinkle on some white embossing powder. It's a little damp today, so some of those flecks are sticking. And just sprinkle this back in. And then I'm going to go and heat set this with my heat tool. And while I'm away, I'm going to use the tag or label from the Wild Rose dies to cut this out. I'll be back in a moment. So here's our sentiment with a partial die cut of that tag or label. And we're going to layer this card front on Sahara sand on a piece of thick Whisper white. But first, if you'll remember, this was cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and so we need to make that a little smaller. And I'm going to go with 3 15/16. And 5 3/16 instead of the normal. Okay, so let's layer this up. So first we're going to put this on the Sahara sand with multi-purpose glue. The colors in this made me think of the wild beach roses. And then we're going to layer this onto our card front, card base. This is the card front with multi-purpose glue. And I've cut this so that it will have just a small frame of the Whisper white base. And then I'm going to use black Stampin' Dimensionals for my sentiment tag. Making sure that I align that with the core. And there we go. There's my watercolor To a Wild Rose card using the Stampin' Up Watercolor Pencils assortments. This is Sara Levin, the Artful Inker of theartfulinker.com. Please shop for your Stampin' Up products in my store, and you'll find a link below the video to the next video for the Creating Kindness blog hop today. Thanks for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye. Have a good day.